Hello, 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 hello. Welcome everybody. Welcome to Northwestern. Thanks for joining in this afternoon. I hope you had a wonderful extended weekend. This week's already weird. I think today's Monday and it's not. My name is Quinton Sprull. I am an assistant director of admission at the university. I'm also a double alum, having graduated in 2009 from the School of Education and Social Policy. And then I received my master's, not my bachelor's, my master's from the School of Communication back in 2017. I'm also proudly from Chicago. What? We're going to get started in just a moment with a round of introductions. I'll give you the lay of the land in a little bit. So let's start with our moderator, Drew, for an introduction to our wonderful student panels. Drew.
Thank you so much, Quinton, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Drew Hazen, and I'm one of our graduate admission counselors working in the Office of Undergraduate Admission. Like Quinton, I am also a double alum of the university. I'm about a few weeks away from completing my master's degree in the School of Communication. And I'm also an undergraduate alum of the university, graduating with the class of 2018. We're very excited to be hosting a student panel tonight. So let's hear from our student panelists. Serena, why don't you go ahead and get us kicked off?
Hello, my name is Serena. I am a fourth year studying anthropology and global health from Las Vegas, Nevada. And when I am not working for the tour guide office, you can find me as the president of QuestBridge, Northwestern's low-income scholars network.
Hi, I'm Harry. I am a second year theater major with minors in psychology and dance. And when from South Orange, New Jersey, from South Orange, New Jersey. And when I am not in class, you can find me as the technical director of one of our 9 student theater boards on campus, or as a part of a new board game company operating out of one of our entrepreneurial spaces on campus. Sophia, do you want to take it next?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Sophia. I'm a third year from Los Angeles, California. I'm studying social policy and psychology. And one fun thing I do on campus is I help run a mentoring program for middle schoolers. Troy, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name is Troy. I'm a fourth year student from Laurel, Maryland. I study journalism in Medill, and when I'm not working in the admissions office, I do a lot of stuff planning our orientation program for new students called Wildcat Welcome.
My name's Alena, and I'm a fourth year student from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm double majoring in journalism and English literature with a certificate in civic engagement. And one of my favorite things that I do at Northwestern is I'm the presentations chair for our sexual health and assault peer education group.
Wonderful. Thank you guys for those introductions. You're going to hear from that student panel in just about 10 minutes. So the way that this will flow is I'll give you sort of a brief overview of Northwestern so you can sort of get those gears going. For about 10 minutes, I'll talk about who we are as a school. And while I'm talking, feel free to put those questions over in the live chat. We're monitoring that section right now, and Drew will be sure to use those questions as we begin our student panel section. The whole entire panel, this entire event will last about an hour. Again, with me talking for about 10 minutes, and then the panel going for about 45 minutes. Sound good? Coolio. One of the first things I want to mention is we want to talk briefly about our COVID response. So we have tons of information available on our website. Links will be available in the chat so that you can get a sense of what the university's response has been and is continuing to be as it develops for COVID, whether that's related to programming on campus, our plans to reopen in the fall, and as well as other developments as it relates to testing and the like. So know that we definitely have our pulse on what's going on out there, and we're have our responses available for you to review in your time. So one of the things that first that makes Northwestern is actually our diverse community of 8,000 undergraduate students. So we have students that represent the entire world. All 50 states are represented, but actually over 80 countries are also represented. And we really pride ourselves on these figures because we view diversity as a resource for learning. And it really contributes to our small discussion-based classes, which rely on this diversity of experience from all of our students to bring into the classroom, enhance their learning, regardless of the subject area. So you learn it from your peers just as much as you do from our faculty. And by diversity, we don't just mean cultural diversity, we mean religious diversity, as again, regional diversity, sexual orientation, political, the gamut of the political spectrum as well. So diversity in every sense of the word. We really try very hard to ensure that we have a community that our students both feel comfortable in, but also is challenged from as well. So your learning takes place across 6 schools at the university. We have a 6-school model. And from largest to smallest, our schools are the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, which houses about 50% of our 8,000 students, and it has about 45 different majors. Our second largest school is the McCormick School of Engineering, which uses a whole brain philosophy to create its curriculum. A really cool school. I'm not a STEM person, but I kind of wish I took a couple of engineering classes when I was an undergrad. Our third largest school is the School of Communication, which has a range of areas of study, from theater and radio, television, and film to communication studies and human communication sciences. Our School of Music offers both performance and non-performance concentrations. It is a conservatory as well. So if you are planning to apply or interested in applying for one of these schools' performance tracks, an audition will be required at the time of application. The Medill School of Journalism and Integrated Marketing Communications is a very long name for a school that does one thing really, really well, and that's journalism. It's the only, it's actually the only school in the top 10, I do believe, of national rankings that has a school fully dedicated to journalism, as opposed to some other schools where journalism is sort of housed in the School of Communication. And last but not least, is the Small but Mighty School of Education and Social Policy, which is where I got my undergrad from, and some students on the panel are currently studying, so yay them, slightly biased. They are a great school, the School of Education and Social Policy, because those are really, I would say, the civic engagement minded and the doers of the university. A cool fact about the School of Education and Social Policy is actually receives quite a few transfer students throughout the time. It's the school that has the highest number of inter-school transfers. So by that, we mean that it actually has a very small starting class, maybe about 20 people per incoming class. And then by the time that particular class graduates, a number of students from the other schools learn that there is an area of study in the School of Education that fits them better, and they end up graduating a class of about 100. So although we have 6 distinct undergraduate schools, your learning actually takes place across the schools. So we really have what we call interdisciplinary learning. We really encourage that at the university because we really understand that those disciplines really can build upon one another to really help our students and our faculty combat and answer problems in a very comprehensive way across this world. The quarter system is one of the things that actually makes this flexibility really easy. So we are in a quarter system for our academic structure versus a semester school. So at a semester school, there's two distinct terms of academics. So versus, as I said, at a quarter school like Northwestern, there's 3 academic terms, so fall, winter, and spring. We do have a summer term as well, but it's not a required term for students to enroll. Most of the time during the summer term, students are off doing an internship or studying abroad or the like. So in these three quarters, they're 10 weeks at length, and you're taking about 4 courses in each term. If you do the math, you're actually taking about 10 to 12 more courses over the course of your 4 years than you at a quarter school like Northwestern than you would at a semester school. So that means there's really a great opportunity for you to take a number of courses just to fulfill your own academic curiosity. We really encourage our students to do that. A major, for instance, only requires about 15 to 18 courses. And as I said, you're taking about 48 courses by the time you graduate. So there's a lot of room there to take additional courses that fulfill some elective requirements and distribution requirements, and our students can talk about that later. But there's really a great opportunity to have other areas of concentration, whether that be a minor or a certificate, and actually 70% of our students do pursue more than one area of concentration. As I said, interdisciplinary studies is definitely a hallmark of Northwestern students. It's not at all uncommon for students to combine more than one discipline. So you can major in dance and also neuroscience, for instance, or political science and engineering. There is no limits to what you can study at the university. We have over 4,600 courses to choose from, and guided by great faculty members and academic advisors that ensures that you are really learning you're really sort of guiding, creating your own path, your own fulfillment at the university. We have a 6-to-1 student to faculty ratio, which means that of our 1,200 faculty members, about 80% of our classes have fewer than 20 students in them. So you're going to be taught by faculty members who are esteemed in their own fields. Research also supports the university as well. It's a hallmark of the university. We are a Tier 1 research university, which means that research takes place across all areas of the university, with the university, I've said university a lot, with the university awarding over $3.5 million every year to undergraduates to pursue their own research. Innovation centers also is a great supplement, if you will, to your learning at the university. So we have places like the Garage, which is our entrepreneurship hub, the Night Lab, which develops digital tools for media makers, and the Media and Design Studio, which helps faculty and students create multimedia projects. Just a handful of examples of innovation centers that we have across the university to continue to challenge our students in that way. We have over 70% of our students actually pursue an internship or co-op experience by the time they graduate. Over 150 study abroad programs are available to you. And we're proud to say that thanks to our really supportive and accessible alumni network, about 96% of our students do receive a full-time job offer or placement in a full-time graduate program within 6 months of graduating. Students are also interested or as passionate about what they're doing outside of the classroom as they are inside the classroom, with us offering over 500 student organizations. We have about 12 a cappella groups on campus, which is probably 11 too many, but they're all great. We also really are happy to say that our location is really important for us. We have sort of the best of all worlds. The campus is about a mile long, and it sits in the city of Evanston, which is a suburb about 12 miles north of the city of Chicago. And Chicago, access to Chicago, one of the greatest cities in the world. We are proud to say that we have a number of partnerships and collaborations with many entities in Chicago. We make it very easy for our students to get down there, whether that be through the intercampus shuttle, which is free, or through a short train ride that's about $5. So there's a number of stops across campus for students to just get on the train and hop downtown to do whatever they want in a number of different ways. I'm going to pivot really quickly before I'm done and talk about our mission sort of profile and financial aid. There's 2 ways to apply to the university. One route is through early decision. The other route is through a regular decision. The early decision route is a binding route, and it's really for students who are absolutely excited about Northwestern and have done the work to know that we are their #1 choice. The reason it's binding with an earlier deadline of November 1 is because if you're accepted through early decision, you have to withdraw your applications from other schools. And it's a really great route for students to take. We accept about 50% of our class through the early decision pool. However, if you're not sure just yet, and that's too much of a hard stop for you, regular decision is a perfectly fine route to take. Those applications are due on January 2nd, and we accept both the common application or the coalition application, whichever application you're more familiar with. We encourage you to submit that one. At the moment, SAT scores and ACT scores, they are required. They are self-reported. Self-reported scores are accepted, and we do super score as well. We also require 2 letters of recommendation as part of your application, with the counselor being one recommendation and a letter from a core subject teacher being the second. You are allowed to submit more than 2 letters of recommendation, but we really encourage that those additional letters offer additional context than it's not already provided by the other 2. Your personal statement is also, your personal statement, your Why at Northwestern statement are 2 writing samples that we require. Your personal statement really can write about whatever you want to write about. It's a great opportunity for you to really speak for yourself and really give us a sense of who you are as a person, as a student, as a future alum. And we really are looking at that to gauge who you are as a person outside of, let's say, your transcripts and your letters of recommendation, et cetera. Your Why Northwestern is a very short statement that we ask of you to submit, which is a very simple question: why Northwestern? And in that, we're not really looking for you to just regurgitate sort of our cool stats and what we think we do very well. We want you to do the work in that short statement of connecting why Northwestern connects with you specifically, and how Northwestern is the great partner for you to get to the next step. We're looking forward to you demonstrating how Northwestern is the #1 partner for you, and be specific in that interest as well. Financial aid is, we're very proud to say that we meet 100% of a family's demonstrated need, and we do that with full scholarship. All scholarship is completely renewable. And when we say we meet demonstrated need, what we essentially mean is that we take the cost of attendance and we subtract it from, we take the expected family contribution and we subtract it from the cost of attendance. And that difference is what we cover it fully in scholarship. We don't offer any loans whatsoever. Over 60% of our students on campus actually receive some form of financial aid, and that amounts to nearly $200 million every single year for families to study sort of debt-free, or at least without the burden of financial debt. So I've spoken a lot. Hope you have a lot of questions over there in the chat function. I'm going to hand it over to Drew so we can get our panel started for about 40 minutes with some great questions. That's who you came here for. So Drew, I'm handing it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Quinton, for getting things started for us. For those of you that have submitted questions already, thank you. For those of you still curious about some things, feel free to send those questions in our live chat so we can tackle them during our student panel today. This first question is going to go to Serena. As one student puts it, every school has a personality. So they're curious to know, how would you describe Northwestern's personality?
Great, yeah, so I would describe Northwestern's personality as passionate, I guess. So Northwestern students are kind of known for being ultra passionate about a plethora of things. And the really great thing about Northwestern is that there's so much opportunity to sort of explore each of those passions and kind of dedicate time to those passions. So for example, I came into college really passionate about Relay for Life, which is an American Cancer Society charity organization. And I was really happy to find we have our own Relay for Life chapter that we put on every year. It's a really big event. And so that was a really great way for me to take a lot of passions and things that I was interested in high school and bring those over to Northwestern. So yeah, I don't know, I've described us as a group of really passionate students.
I would definitely agree with that description as well. So way to hit that right on the head. Harry is going to go out and help us with this next one. For students that are interested in joining musical productions or any sort of performance productions, what is the experience like as a non-major? Can you get involved? Could you talk a little bit about non-major involvement in productions on campus?
Yeah, totally. We love non-majors to be involved in our productions in whatever aspect you want to be involved in. We actually have a newsletter for theater specifically that's sent out every single week, every single Wednesday. It's called Twist, and you can be on that newsletter no matter what major you're in, as long as during Wildcat Welcome, if you find the people in the club fair, it should be pretty easy to find. And every single week there will be different postings where productions are looking for members if they need an assistant director or a lighting designer or whatever they need, they will be there, and anybody can join and help out those productions. And then in addition to that, every single quarter we have auditions, which are open to everybody. And all the shows that are going to be going on that quarter will be in those auditions, both the university shows and also the student productions, of which we have probably about, I would say, 40 student productions every single year, upwards of 40. And then in addition to that, in not just theater, we also have a lot of non-major opportunities. If you're interested in music, we have a non-major orchestra, a non-major jazz band, a non-major choir. And then we also have our marching band, which actually doesn't require any audition unless you are going to be in the drum line. So there's tons of opportunities to get involved in the arts if you're a non-major.
Great, thank you so much, Harry. Really nice knowing that you have all those different options as a student as a way to get involved. Next up, we're going to be hearing from Troy. We have some students who are curious about campus sporting events. What options are there for students? Are they popular with students? Go ahead and share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so campus athletics have actually been one of my favorite parts of being at Northwestern. I think there's just a lot of school spirit here around really all of our teams. This past year, the women's basketball team did really great, and it was super fun to just go to those games with my friends. Welsh Ryan Arena, where it's played, is a short walk or bus ride away from campus. But to all of Northwestern sporting events, you get in free if you're a student, which is also super convenient because you're playing against other Big Ten schools. And so if you're interested in athletics, that's definitely a great atmosphere to be involved in, but you also don't have to pay at all as a student.
Great. Free is a great word that we like hearing as college students. So thanks for highlighting that. Alena, this next one is going to be coming to you. Could you talk about the resources and the support that students would receive if they're looking for internships or just seeking some different professional experiences?
Yeah, definitely. So like Quinton mentioned, about 70% of Northwestern students will have at least one internship experience by the time they graduate. But because of how much support that you get, a lot of students end up having more than one experience. So I'll graduate with 4 internships under my belt. And I'm in one of the schools that has an internship program built into it. So our Medill School of Journalism, our School of Education and Social Policy, and McCormick School of Engineering all have internship components, although McCormick's is optional. So through that, you are guaranteed to have an internship, and Northwestern faculty and staff will support you in that. If you're not in one of those schools, but you're looking to take part in an internship during the school year, Chicago Field Studies is a really popular option, where you work part-time in Chicago in a field of your choice, as well as take classes part-time. So that's a really great option. And then finding an internship over the summer is also really easy because of the support that Northwestern provides. So whether it's your first summer after starting Northwestern and you have no clue what you want to do, or you find the perfect internship for you and you're looking for help kind of fine-tuning your resume, I found that our career advising office has been extremely helpful, and each undergraduate school does have its own individual career advising office as well. So that's been one thing that I've really loved about Northwestern.
Sophia, this next question is coming to you. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunities for students to get involved, but how do you feel that students are able to find that balance between their academic involvements and extracurriculars?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think something people are commonly worried about. You hear about all these really exciting opportunities inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. And I know I felt it coming in as a first year, like, how will I ever find that balance? But I would say, first off, like, it's a lot easier than you think. What's really important, and the advice I would give to an incoming freshman at any school, is learning to say no to certain things, and also learning to find what really makes you happy and what makes you passionate. And sometimes that means trying out new things and then deciding that they're not for you. So for example, I came in thinking I wanted to study chemistry, realized that was not for me. I've joined some clubs that I didn't really like being in, and I realized they weren't for me. But then I've also found some that I really like, and 2 majors that I also really like. And I think that because of Northwestern's quarter system and collaborative environment in terms of like juggling academics and extracurricular things, it's definitely very doable. It just takes a little bit of practice, as does anything.
Up next, we're going to go for Harry. Could you share a little bit about your experience living in our housing resources that we have on campus, as well as what options there are available for students?
Yeah, totally. I am a proud member of Willard Residential College, which is one of our residential colleges on campus. We have a lot of different options for students that are looking to live on campus, which you will do for your first 2 years. And then after that, you can either move off of campus or stay on if you want. Lots of people do both. But we have basically 3 major options, which are residential area. So we have residential areas, which are where residential halls are located, and they will all share common resources. So maybe one will have a dining hall, one will have a gym, and another dorm will have like study spaces, and all the members of those different dorms will be able to go and access all those different resources. And then you also have some more granular options. So you'll have residential halls, residential communities, and residential colleges. Those are basically on a gradient of community involvement, basically. So residential halls are what you would expect coming to a college environment. It's long hallways, doubles, singles, triples, suite style. We have pretty much all those options, or we have all those options available. And there will be community events and stuff like that, but there are common spaces and stuff like that, but they are a little bit less community focused, whereas our residential communities will have a member of our faculty known as a faculty in residence living inside of the residential community. And that faculty in residence will put on events for all the students. So sometimes they'll have like a dinner with the students that live in the residential community. Sometimes they'll have like a talent show or something like that. Really fun events. And then residential colleges are even more community focused. So they'll have a board of students that are putting on events for all the students in the community. And they have And then most of them also have a theme. So we have one which is our communications residential college. We have one which is our international studies residential college. And so you don't have to be a part of that specific field. You just have to demonstrate some interest in it. And they'll have different events and amenities that are specifically related to that field. So our communications one has like a recording studio inside of it, and has practice rooms for people that are interested in performing.
Great, Harry. Thanks so much for highlighting all those different fun resources that students have to choose from. Up next, we're going to head back to Sophia. We know that as a Northwestern student, students may have the option of double majoring during their time here, but there's also the possibility of pursuing a dual degree. They sound pretty similar, but there is some differences there. Could you talk a little bit about the differences between double majoring and being a part of a dual degree program?
Sure. So I actually am double majoring. I have one major in the School of Education and Social Policy, and then a second major in Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. So what a double major means is that I will graduate with a single bachelor's degree, but just have two separate majors. It's a little bit less of a time commitment than a dual degree. A dual degree, you actually get two separate bachelor's degrees. And in terms of like choosing which one you're interested in, it really depends what two things you're hoping to study. So I know a really common dual degree program is Beaman School of Music and McCormick School of Engineering. But if you're studying something in Weinberg or College of Arts and Sciences, most people choose to double major. Really the difference is that you're fulfilling each school's separate requirements with a dual degree, where with a double major, you are fulfilling your home school's requirements and then taking on the extra major in the other school. So definitely like reach out if you have a specific thing in mind. You're hoping to double major, hoping to dual degree. Really depends on what things you're interested in.
This next question is going to be for Troy. We have some students who are curious about the traditions or the different activities that students partake in that really make them feel like they're a part of the Northwestern community. So why don't you talk a little bit just about your personal preferences for those and others that students prefer during their time on campus?
Yeah, so I think one big general tradition that like all students take place in when they're coming into the university is Wildcat Welcome. And so that looks a lot of different ways every year. They have different events, but through that, it's basically a week-long orientation program to Northwestern. And one thing that I really love about Wildcat Welcome is that it's not just like figuring out what your classes are, like going through like robotic steps, but it's really built around community and meeting other people. And within that week, there's a ton of traditions like March Through the Arch, Purple Pride, which is all oriented around getting acclimated to campus. There's also Painting the Rock, which I have had a lot of fun with. I've done it twice over my 4 years at Northwestern. It's basically just like people guard the rock for 24 hours. So they actually guard it. They prop up a tent outside of it and have to be watching it for 24 hours. And then at the end of that period, they get to paint it. Sometimes people do it for a student group or for a class that they're in maybe. Sometimes people just do it for fun and just like paint some random message on it. But it's like really cool to be walking by that area every day. I could sit right in the middle of campus and you can see a different message on it pretty much every single day.
Great. That is also one of my favorite traditions as well. So I appreciate you highlighting that for everyone. We're going to be hearing from Serena coming up next. We have some students who are curious about policy research, specifically global health. What is it like just being involved in that academic area? And then also, what is it like getting involved in research?
Yeah, so the great thing about the Global Health Department is that it's one of our newer departments. So the faculty is really invested in ensuring that students are kind of getting like the most up-to-date like global health experience. So a lot of our classes will have guest speakers that come from like prominent areas. So for example, I took a course my first year here where we had Paul Farmer, who is like considered like one of like the fathers of global health. But he came and spoke to our class, which was really great to like meet him and like really understand the research that he had done to sort of develop the field and also like what he was currently working on. So not only do you get like this historical background of where global health came from, what it is, but you're also getting this really like up-to-date viewpoint of it because our faculty are so connected in the area and are so invested in making sure that the students within the program are invested in the area. As far as research, there's tons of research opportunities. I did research my first year. I did anthropological research, and I developed my own research project surrounding the experience of mixed race students on campus. So it was really great to have a faculty advisor who was sort of guiding me through the process of creating my very own research project, which as a first year undergrad student is kind of an incredible experience to have just right off the bat. And I was fully funded by Northwestern through that experience. Northwestern allots money every year just to undergraduate research. So I was able to take advantage of some of that money through a fellowship that Northwestern offers. And I was able to stay in the dorms over the summer, eat in the dining halls. They gave me like a stipend for any expenses I might have with my regarding my research. So that was a really great experience to sort of build out my idea of what research is, how to do research, and kind of led me to the path I'm going on now. So.
Great, thank you so much. Alena, we'd love to hear your thoughts for this next question. We've talked a lot about what students can do in the classroom and in their extracurricular involvements, but how are students spending their time socially? What does a typical Friday night look like at Northwestern? Do we find that students are engaging with the local Chicagoland area as well? Just share your experience and some of your experiences of fellow students on that topic.
Yeah, so Northwestern's definitely the kind of place where lots of opportunities to have fun, no matter what your interests might be. I always like to say that there's never been a weekend at Northwestern where I'm at a loss for how to spend my time because people are interested in a lot of different things. So there's always something going on. So for example, like maybe your first couple years on campus, you'll spend time just hanging out in your friends' residential buildings, going to on-campus sporting events, hanging out on the Lakeville, going to just different areas around campus and getting to know Evanston has been my experience. And then I found as I've progressed during my time at Northwestern, I spend more time in Chicago, although there's no limitations on when you can start exploring Chicago. We are really close. So there's a train called the Elevated Train, or the L, which takes you from Evanston into Chicago. And that is about a 30-minute to an hour ride, depending on where you're going. You can also take the intercampus shuttle, which takes you for free from our Evanston campus to the Chicago campus, where our School of Law and School of Medicine are housed. You don't have to be going for any academic purpose, but once you're dropped off in Chicago, you can go explore there, whether you're interested in trying out some new restaurants or going to see a theater show or going shopping. There's always something to do. And what I really like about Northwestern is Evanston and Northwestern's campus really does have that kind of feel of like a college town and a college area, but then we are in this really wonderful, bigger city. So you can really explore that as well.
Great. I would definitely second you talking about the resources you have as a student, being able to explore the Evanston area, but also having Chicago right at your fingertips. Such a nice experience for our students. We're headed back to Serena for this next question. So Quinton, in his presentation at the start of the panel, mentioned how we have 6 different schools that our students are participating in during their time. Are you able to take classes in a school that you are not majoring in? If so, what does that look like in terms of you selecting classes and taking classes across the schools we have here?
Yeah, so I'm currently taking classes between 3 different schools. So it is definitely possible. So I am taking a course in my home school, which is Weinberg. And then I am taking a course in our School of Education, Social Policy. And then I'm also taking a course within our McCormick School of Engineering. So 3 very different schools, but it's all courses that really target toward my interests. And so when it comes to picking those courses, you pick them just the same as you do any other courses. When you go to register for courses in Caesar, which is our platform to register for courses, they'll come up just like any other courses. And if they are open to all students, you can just register normally. Sometimes you'll need a permission number. So you'll just need to email the professor and say, hey, I'm really interested in taking your course. Is there any way that I can, take the course even though I'm not in the school? And professors are more than willing, in my experience, to let you do that. So they just want to make sure that the students who need the course to graduate will be able to take it, but there's usually no issue with allowing you to take the course. So yeah, it's definitely possible. I'm currently doing it. I've done it many times before, and there's so many interesting courses throughout our schools, and I feel like Northwestern really encourages students to go beyond.
I'm going to ask for Harry to help out with this next question. For any of our listeners who may be interested in performance or theater as they're looking at their college search process, what's a great reason, or what are some of the reasons for you personally why you should choose Northwestern to get involved in the performing arts over other schools that may be audition based for entry?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Northwestern is a BA program, not a BFA, which is something that I think is very important to recognize going into it. So when you come here, you will not be getting a BFA experience. You will not be taking acting classes from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day and nothing else. That's not what we're doing here, which I personally think is an asset. Students that come here to Northwestern, even if they are going to ultimately end up performing, which a lot of students that come here for theater do, students that come here get a really, really, really well-rounded look at what it means to be a theater artist. I personally am a performer, but I've also had the opportunity to direct, to lighting design, to produce shows here at Northwestern, which is something that I never would have been able to experience in a different environment. And my personal perspective is that this allows me to be a much better collaborator going out into the world as a performer or somebody that wants to be involved in theater generally. It allows me to understand where other people on the production team are coming from, what they need, how best to communicate with those people. And it allows me to have a lot more opportunities when I go out to become a theater artist in the future. There are just so many more avenues that you have access to, which is something that's really important as a performer, to always have a ball in the air, something that you can attack or go after and try if you're not like currently involved in a production. And in addition to that, we have really, really great acting and musical theater faculty here as well. So you're not getting a bad experience by any stretch of the mind. You're just getting a slightly different one. And I've seen a lot of really, really incredible performances here. Like some of the student shows that I see are far better than the ones that I see in Chicago. And I am saying that with complete honesty. There is some really incredible work that's being done here. And I'm constantly inspired by the students around me. And I know that I'm making connections now that are going to last me a lifetime.
That is some high praise coming from Harry. So thank you so much for highlighting that for everyone. We're going to circle back to Alena to once again talk a little bit about social life on campus. We have some students who are curious about Greek life and what that experience and opportunity is like for students. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that is important to note is that there's several different types of ways you can get involved with Greek life if you so choose. We have social sororities and fraternities, multicultural, pre-law, business, medical. So basically, if you do want to get involved with a Greek organization, it doesn't have to be like the social sorority or fraternity that you might think of. Another really cool thing about the way Northwestern does Greek life is we have what's called deferred recruitment. So if you are interested in joining, you will join starting your winter quarter, not fall quarter. So that really gives you that first quarter on campus to just get acclimated, get to know people, you know, from a lot of different spheres on campus. You can always join later than winter quarter if you so choose. Around 1/3 of Northwestern students are involved in Greek life in some capacity, but you definitely don't need to get to know people or to have a social experience. I'm personally involved in a social sorority, but most of my friends outside of that specific sorority actually are not involved in Greek life, and that's something that has been totally fine. No barrier there. Like, we're all still hanging out. And yeah, I think Greek life is something that can enhance your Northwestern experience if you so choose, but it definitely doesn't have to define it.
Great. Thanks so much for talking about social life once again. Let's move over to hear a little bit from Troy. For any students that are curious about academic supports that they can find on campus, could you talk about what help they can find and what different parts of campus they can reach out to?
Yeah. So I think probably for me and for a lot of students, the first source of help, if you're having struggles in the class or even just want to ask questions, is definitely the professor themselves. All professors at Northwestern are required to hold office hours. And so basically those are just weekly periods of time where students can drop into their office and ask questions about pretty much anything. So sometimes that's questions about like the lesson, but sometimes you also just end up talking about your life too, which is really nice because then you get to develop a personal relationship with professors here, and a lot of them are really cool. But beyond that, I think there's a lot of other different forms of support too. I think for me, one thing that really surprised me about Northwestern was how collaborative of an environment it is. And so most times when I'm struggling in a class, honestly, I've just gone to other peers in my class and kind of figured out stuff together. There's also one specific group on campus that is specifically targeted towards tutoring students and providing more structured academic support if you're struggling in an area like biology or like a bigger subject area, and they can work through specific questions with you if you still need more extra attention beyond office hours. But overall, there's a ton of different resources here for support, regardless of where you're at in a class.
This next question is for Serena. I'm curious if you could help me understand what's the process like for a student looking to possibly switch majors once they're already here on campus, and then how much time is required before a student has to officially declare for their academic pursuits.
Great. So that's one of my favorite things about Northwestern is I think it's really easy to switch majors. So I have a roommate who has switched between not just majors, but also schools, I think 3 separate times. So it's definitely really easy. She graduated earlier than I did. She graduated last quarter. So it's something you can do without like kind of derailing your academic track because like Quinton said, you're taking 48 classes potentially, and you only need like 15 to finish your major in some cases. So for me, I actually added global health on as a second major pretty late in the game. I added it kind of near the end of my sophomore year. But I know people who will either add majors or switch majors on as late as like their junior year. And it's just a matter of talking to your academic advisor, really working through how you're going to fulfill the requirements. One of the great things is a lot of Northwestern's classes will fill many different requirements. So if you are switching majors between kind of similar fields, a lot of times you'll be able to just kind of move some classes around. So it's just as easy as meeting with your advisor, filling out a piece of paper, meeting with the advisor of your new major, talking to them about how you're going to get through your major in time or even finish early if that's what you choose, and then pursuing that major. So you don't have to decide very quickly at all. You have plenty of time to decide. And if you decide and then figure out halfway through that you don't like it, it's so easy to just change over to another major.
It's great knowing you do have that time and that flexibility to explore and discover a lot of the different classes that we have here. In that same vein, Sophia, I'm curious if you could help us. For any students that come in undecided or find themselves undecided at the start of their time, what is that experience like? And what are some helpful experiences that you've had that helped you decide on your current academic interests?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if you are undecided, I could not have been more undecided in high school. I had no idea what field I wanted to go into, not even like slightly general areas. So first off, I just want to say like, you'll be fine, no stress. You have a lot of time to figure it out. But then in terms of experience, I think I would echo probably a lot of what Serena said. So I applied to Weinberg, which is the largest school. I applied undecided. It's basically like as broad as you can possibly go. And I basically started taking a bunch of random classes, just searched online what looks interesting. And I ended up taking a lot of random things that don't actually count towards any of my majors now. But like Serena said, I will probably still graduate early with 2 majors. I actually ended up transferring schools. I took a class in CESB, School of Education and Social Policy. I loved it. I decided to switch, like she said, literally filled out a form and I was in a new school. But I decided to keep a major in Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, so double majoring. And yeah, you don't have to choose until the end of your sophomore year. I know people who switched after that. Really, you have a ton of time. And then in terms of like support, because it can be kind of overwhelming to not know what you want to do. I know I experienced that. Really reaching out to advisors and then obviously your own advisor, but also reaching out to advisors of potential majors or potential areas of study. I found that to be really helpful. So I was thinking about doing social policy. I actually went and talked to the social policy advisor before I officially decided and asked like, hey, like what do people go into from this field? What is social policy? What do the classes look like? And then also they will probably connect you with students. There's really a lot of support for people who are undecided or people who want to change as well.
Great, thank you so much. Alena, I'd love to have your thoughts for this next question. Well, campus, Evanston, and Chicago have so much to offer for our students. Maybe some students are looking for an international experience during their time here. Could you talk a little bit just about study abroad as it's traditionally known, but also just other international opportunities that students have?
Yeah, so Northwestern really provides a lot of support financially, as well as just helping you get figured out what you want to do in going abroad. So you can do a more traditional study abroad program, like a typical semester, even though we are on the quarter system, they'll help you make it work, which I did one semester in Madrid, Spain. And Northwestern was so helpful in helping me find a program that really fit my academic interests, as well as finding a program that would help me enhance my language skills. So that was a really great experience. And a lot of people worry like it might be difficult to study abroad depending on what you're majoring in, but that's totally not the case. There were people in my program from all different fields of study because we do have a really diverse distribution requirement system at Northwestern. So if you know you want to study abroad, you can maybe save up some of those humanities classes and take those about the history of the country that you're studying in, for instance. So my semester-long study abroad program was one of my favorite experiences at Northwestern. If you're not looking to go abroad for that long, there's also some shorter term programs. Another program that I did was through the Medill School of Journalism, where we did a spring break trip to London to learn about arts and entertainment reporting. So we took half the class before we went on spring break, then went to London, saw all these really great shows and went to all these cool galleries, and then came back and wrote about what we saw there. So that was an amazing experience. There's also lots of programs through that, depending on what you're interested in or what school you're majoring in. Another example that's quite different than what I did is the McCormick School of Engineering sponsors a sustainability trip in Germany. So regardless of what you're interested in, there's lots of opportunities to study abroad, whether it's for a semester, even an entire year, or just a week over spring break. So another great thing to note is that financial aid does travel with you. So you can study abroad sometimes for less than you would pay to go to Northwestern.
For this next question, I'm going to actually tap two of our panelists to help answer. So Serena and Troy, I'd love to hear some of your advice for any new students out there. And then also, what are some things that you would wish you'd known at the early part of your college experience? What would you like to pass down in terms of wisdom for all of our entering students? Why don't we go ahead and start with Serena, and then you can pass it off to Troy.
Great. Yeah, so advice for new students. I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give new students is just to try a little bit of everything. I think that my favorite part of my first year at Northwestern was everything was so new, and there was all of this, I guess, like diversity at this institution. And so I was able to really get myself involved in things that I had kind of been interested in high school, but didn't really know if it was something I wanted to pursue. And so just saying yes to like a lot of things was a really great way for me to discover new interests. So for example, I did sound for Meow, which is one of our comedy sketch groups at Northwestern, or improv sketch groups at Northwestern. And I had never touched a soundboard in my life, but my friend was producing it and said we needed someone. So I was like, why not? And that was like just a fantastic experience for me. So definitely saying yes to as many opportunities as you feel comfortable saying yes to will really kind of give you this like great experience that has a lot of different facets. And then if I could go back and say something to myself, was that the second part?
Just curious what advice you'd want to give to those students, and also what you would wish you had known. And then, yeah, feel free to pass it to Troy after that.
Yeah, what I wish I had known was that Northwestern is so willing to just fund anything that you would like to do, even if it's something you've never done, no one has ever done before. There's so many different funds and resources that Northwestern provides, and our Office of Student Enrichment Services is really knowledgeable about that. So just going and speaking with one of the faculty or one of the staff there, I'm always able, they're always like, oh, you should check out this like fund or this scholarship. Just do things like going abroad to do research, or even like starting a new organization. Where do you get funding to start like a sports organization to get equipment? So there's a lot of like pockets of like resources out there. So don't be afraid if you don't find something that you love to just really throw yourself into creating something you love. Troy?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. I think something else that I guess has been helpful advice for me, both coming to Northwestern and like giving to other people, is just, I think like, I remember when I came to Northwestern, and I think really when you go to like any college, there's just like so much around you going on. And so I think like taking time to like not feel like you have to join like 1,000 clubs right off the bat. Like I remember when I went to the student organization fair, like I literally put my name down on like more things than I can count. And that's not to say like I 100% think like saying yes is so important. And it's probably my favorite thing I've done here. And it was the advice I was planning on giving. But like, I also think it's super important to take a step back sometimes too, and find a balance, what I would say. And then I think two things I'd wish I'd known are, one is I think how many sources of community there are on our campus. There's really so many different types of spaces, whether that's like identity-based spaces or maybe like a group in your class, or just like so many different organizations on campus where you can find some sort of community. And so I think when I came to Northwestern, I had a really restricted view of what that looked like. I was like, my residence hall is going to be community, and then maybe my class will be, and then the first couple of friends I meet, but there are so many different places here. And I think one thing that's helped me a lot is to not like shut myself off from those places. And then something else is just like going to Chicago more. I think that's something that I didn't really start to do until like my last couple years on campus. And I'm really glad I did, because it's an amazing city and there's literally so much to do.
Definitely agree with all the advice that was shared between the two of you. So thank you so much. Harry, looking for your thoughts for this next question. How would you describe the workload for students at Northwestern? And then what are just a few strategies you find helpful that you may want to pass along?
Yeah, totally. I think it really depends major to major. And I also think that that workload can manifest in really different ways. So like personally, as a theater major, I know that I have less in-class work and more extracurricular work or applied work, which is something that all Northwestern majors care a lot about, is getting their students out of the classroom and applying what they have learned in the real world. But I would say that the workload is definitely very manageable. You'll typically be taking about, you'll be taking 4 classes a quarter, which are going to be on average 3 hours a class. So that'll be about 12 hours a week, which is not that much class time. And then for each of those classes, it really depends, but you'll generally not have more than like the equivalent amount of time out of class doing homework. Like I would say that that's kind of a lot. So you'll probably not be doing that much. But there are a lot of different ways to get help with work if you're struggling. One like really simple thing that it took me a while to figure out is like going to the library to do your work. When I got to Northwestern, I tried to do all of my homework in my dorm room, and that was not effective at all because my friends were around, I had things to do, I had games to play, and I was just wasting all of my time, and then I'd have to stay up super late and to try and get my homework done. But just going to the library and like setting up a separate place for you to do your work from where you're having fun and having time with your friends, I think is a really simple strategy that can be very, very effective. And then in addition to that, Northwestern has a lot of resources to help you out. So we've talked about our advisors before, but we also have one particular resource known as the Writing Place, which is a place where students will help mentor other students and look at different writings that they're doing. So if you need an essay if you have an essay that you need help on, or even like an application for a grant or something, they're happy to look at that and help you with that work. And we have a lot of peer mentorship programs just like that are designed to help students who might be falling a little bit behind.
Sophia, we have a very important question coming up for you next. We have a student who asked, what is campus like in the dead of winter? And given that you're coming from a more temperate climate, I figured it would be good to hear your experience on that topic. So why don't you go ahead and share?
That is a good question. I'll start it off by saying that So I'm from LA, and I used to think that anything below 70 was freezing, and I would have like 5 jackets on when it was 68. So I'll just say that like if I can survive a Chicago winter, you will be totally fine. But that said, campus is really pretty in the snow. It was one of the first times I saw like real snow. I remember in my freshman year dorm, like the entire dorm ran outside the first time it snowed. We had a lot of California people for some reason, but there was just so much excitement about like, whoa, what is this winter? It's worn off a little bit. Last year during the polar vortex, I was a little bit less thrilled about it. But you know, you buy the right jackets, you layer up, you walk quickly to class and you'll be fine. I think the advice I would give is like, even when it feels cold outside, make time to go places and do things. I think if you're not used to it, it can be kind of like, oh, I just want to stay inside. I don't really feel like doing anything. But the winters can actually be really fun because there's so much going on inside. And even when it's 30, 40, there's people outside. And one of my favorite parts about the winter is that, well, I'm sure anyone who has seasons already knows this, but if it's been super cold all winter, as soon as you hit spring, like there's nothing better than that first day where it's above 50 and the entire campus is out on the lake fill. And then as soon as it hits like 70, everyone is on the beach. So it really makes up for it when it comes around that time.
Great. Thank you so much for setting some healthy expectations. Well, we'd love for it to be 70 and sunny. We make the most with what we have. So appreciate you highlighting that. And Troy, would love to hear from you as we're wrapping up our panel. What's one of the reasons that you chose Northwestern?
I think it's something that Serena kind of touched on earlier, but like when I came to campus, I was like super unsure of what I wanted to do. So I applied to do journalism in Medill, but basically was undecided. Like I could have transferred into pretty much like any school with my interests. And so I think one thing I really love about being here is whether it's academically or socially, pretty much any other aspect of what you want in a school, there's so many different ways for you to do it here. And you're not going to have to choose one specific area, but you can combine them all. And so whether that's in the classroom, you can take however many classes you want and however many different areas you want and really explore your interests. If that's extracurricularly, there's so many different opportunities here to get involved in the things that you're passionate about. We have so many different student organizations here. And if that's just in terms of the atmosphere you want in campus, I think there's a really great balance here between super supportive students who are really passionate about what they're doing, and then people who are just have really interesting things that they're interested in. And so I think for me, it was just the combination of being able to do so many different things in so many different ways.
Thank you so much, Troy, for sharing on that. And thank you to the rest of our student panelists for answering all of our questions. For all of our viewers out there, we really hope that you got a lot out of this panel and that you were able to learn something today. Time is getting short though, unfortunately, so we're gonna pass the mic back to Quinton to wrap things up.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you guys so much. The panel was really excellent. We hope you viewers, you students out there really found it useful. I want to say a little quick congratulations to the seniors on our panel. So Alena, Serena, and Troy, and also Drew, kudos, you're almost done with your master's, so awesome. So I want to close up by asking just one quick question. One word you could use to describe Northwestern. Let's start with you, Serena.
Yeah, so I'll say new opportunities, just 2 words I cheated. Harry.
I'll say passionate. Sophia?
I'll say exciting. And Troy?
I would say home. Alena?
And I'll finish it off with collaborative.
Drew, what about you?
I would say curious.
Excellent. Oh, and that's my word, actually. Excellence. My one word to describe Northwestern is excellence. So again, thank you guys for listening. We hope this was very informative for you. We hope you stay tuned and stay engaged. There's tons of opportunities to continue to connect with us, even virtually. We have a number of sessions happening this week as well. So feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out online. There's tons of information on our website there. Again, thanks so much for joining in. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact us. We're here for you, and have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye now.